Hey there, Spencer here with Mykala Mortgage from Dart Bank. I am joined by Charles Schultz, owner and builder here at Patriot Builders and expert in Barndominium homes. Chuck, you want to just introduce yourself a little bit, talk about your history here at Patriot Builders?
Right on. So I'm Chuck Schultz. I own Patriot Builders, post-frame contracting. We love to specialize in post-frame homes. Everybody calls them barndominiums. It's kind of one of those things that make my skin crawl, but I won't get into that. They're not condos and they're not barns. They end up being residential homes. And I think that's where your expertise steps in with the financing thing and where all that confusion has gone in with people having problems getting lending and everything. So, but I've been into the post-frame home, pole barn home kind of thing for about 10 years, in searching for a better alternative to be more competitive to my competitors, stronger, more energy efficient, with still the impact of resale value. And I come up with many things over those, starting 10 years ago, and I kept coming up with a geodesic concrete dome, except it didn't have one component, resale value. Nobody will buy it, right? But it's the most efficient, strongest structure you can buy and cheapest. So about 5 years ago, we broke ground on, finally got somebody to want to build one, and we did it. And it's been going crazy ever since. So we've loved it. We've refined everything we've done. We've learned the nuance. It's not rocket science, it's a different dance of construction. So we've had to learn a new dance, right? So we've had to learn certain things that work for this that didn't work for platform framing. And being a framer by trade, we're hands-on the whole structure. Right. So we know everything about it as it's being built. So, because we frame them in-house, we trim them in-house, all the carpentry's done in-house with Patriot Builders, as much as we possibly can anyway. So
awesome. Well, we're here to answer a question that's been out there for a while now, and I call it barndominium because that's what you see a lot with the chip and Joanna Gaines thing and all that good stuff. But again,
sounds cool.
Right, sounds cool too. But here to answer the question of, is it cheaper to build a pole barn home than a traditional build? So Chuck here is just going to kind of go over kind of the top items that we see where that we do see those cost savings in building a pole barn home. So Chuck, what are kind of the top couple or top three items that you see where you cut savings on these
the best way to save, the first and foremost, this is where I get a lot of people. They'll find something on Pinterest, which is a beautiful home, and it's this, and it's a 2-story, and it's a post frame, or it's supposed to be a post frame or a barn door. And I look at it and I'm like, oh, because what I found traditionally, platform frame structures, the stick built, when you stack footage on top of footage, it's cheaper.
Right.
It doesn't work that way with post frames. It's actually cheaper to actually have ranch homes, which are the most desirable homes, which is another reason to go with these. If you can go with a ranch platform, that is the biggest impact on your budget. As soon as you add a second floor, which is going to tie into some of the other things that you save on, you have to spend money on. So that's probably the first thing. I try to get people to go ranch platform, ranch style home, because it is the most cost effective in a post frame. The other cost savings, and let's put this in perspective too. Cheap, what is cheap, right?
Yeah.
We want value. We want good things. We want quality of construction to still be there, and we want to save money, right? That's everybody's goal, save money.
Right.
So yes, these are lower cost, more economic to build, more efficient to build. The biggest savings, I think, is eliminating a basement. Us Michiganders are born and bred to think we need a basement, period, right?
Right.
So if you can live without a basement, that is your biggest expense to any home. It accounts for the typical platform framed house. It accounts for at least 35% of the total cost of construction is having a basement.
Right.
Your excavation is double. Your plumbing is actually more expensive. The fact that you have your lumber package, just by default, I don't have to buy floor framing in a post frame unless I'm putting a second floor on. So I don't have to buy materials to frame a floor, a deck, and then I don't have to buy floor coverings, which could be $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, depending on somebody's budget or what they want in the home.
Yeah.
Which, when you add all that stuff up, you know, the typical house, we're looking at, and we take our footprint, because the garage takes the same energy in the way we do, because we insulate and finish the garage just like the house.
Yep.
The footage to hire us on a typical ranch platform, 9-foot walls, that kind of thing, heated garage, you know, not heated, but insulated and trimmed. Heated would be adding a furnace, and that would be a little more. Our typical setup is about $135 a square foot of the footprint. So, because the garage is treated just like the house. So of the and sometimes these builds have vast shop garages.
Right.
You know, which a lot of times you can't get away with effectively with a traditional build.
Yeah.
So the cost savings, you know, I'd say you'd probably run into your building contractors out there with platform framing or traditional build homes. You're going to find out that they're going to use the multiplier of about 240 to 280 a square foot, modestly, not cheap, but modestly built.
Right.
And then they go up from there.
Yeah.
And that's based on the square footage of the home, not the garage. A lot of times they don't, unless the garage is
Finished and
big or whatever, then there's extra pricing for that. But yeah, I think you're going to save probably at least 35-40%.
Okay. And just a little disclaimer too, because there's so many different builders across the state here in Michigan, right? Is that everybody's going to be different. You know, we found Chuck here in Livingston County and is absolutely phenomenal, does a amazing job and just builds beautiful homes. But disclaimer is that there are builders out there that have different price points. So Chuck, you're talking about that 130 price range, is we've seen barndos in, you know, kind of that 200. So it just, I think, kind of depends on the style as well.
Right.
I think you've got down to science, which helps.
I think you're hitting on, you've seen something that everybody, you know, you see the barndos for under 100,000.
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing is a shell package.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I kind of find it hard to believe that some of these houses, our lumber packages, are $30,000-$40,000. How do you build a house in $100,000 unless it's a
in today's
shoebox?
world?
You don't, right? And especially if you're hiring a contractor, you want to save money. If you have the wherewithal to do your own contracting or be your own builder, that is where you save the money, and you're saving 20% at best.
Yeah.
You know, you're really not saving. You're not going to be getting into the barn home builds for $100,000. It's just impossible, especially right now. I mean, we used to be able to build these houses for $105 a square foot.
Yeah.
You know, as little as 3.5 years ago. But that's not the case no more.
Yeah.
You know, things have changed.
Right. I want to circle back because you had mentioned something that kind of threw me off, and I wasn't expecting it, but you're talking about plumbing being cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, can you elaborate a little bit on that, of what you see on why plumbing becomes cheaper with doing that?
Well, a lot of times you'll have a basement, and I say it's cheaper because you don't have to worry about doing drain tiling and ejection pumps and everything like that, because you're now, when you put a basement into the ground, you now have water constantly trying to get in that basement.
Right.
And there's 3 guarantees with concrete, right? You know what they are?
That they're going to crack?
Well, that's one of them. It's crack, it gets really hard and heavy, and nobody's going to steal it.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 guarantees with concrete. So when you put a basement in the ground, there are things that good contractors do to minimize that from happening.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance that it will. And so you're fighting nature's pressure. When you dig a hole, you create a void, and all the groundwater is now getting pressed into that hole. So the system you have to do for weep draining, you got your sump pumps, and getting that basement water out of there. Hopefully you're on a dry area where you don't even have to worry about it that much, but you still have to put those systems in place, right? You have to worry about that basement staying dry. So, and then if you're ever going to think for planning on finishing a said basement, then you're going to add you're going to add other plumbing down there underground to accommodate for that, which may include another ejection crock or whatever.
Right.
We typically don't run into that kind of need, right?
Yep.
So the plumbing would be a little bit more expensive. We still have underground plumbing work to do,
Yeah.
but again,
It's not to the extent that
yeah,
you're seeing
it's
with
not that
traditional.
it's I think it's a little bit more, you're not saving a ton
Right.
difference between the two builds, but there's a little bit of a savings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, good stuff. Well, there you have it. Thanks, Chuck. Awesome information. If you guys have any other questions, or if you're thinking about building in Livingston County or the surrounding areas, reach out to Chuck. He is, again, just an amazing builder. Does an incredible job. Again, I'm Spencer with Micro Mortgage at Dart Bank, and we'll see you next time.